Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Jennifer Locksmith. Welcome to the Being Human Now show. And today we're in for a great treat, or should I say tonight? We have Justin from Cryptids of the Corn here with us tonight. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was supposed to happen forever ago, and our
I,
schedule got insane.
I did. I
And
got
so
sick.
you got sick, and then we had that period of just October was insane for us. September's a crazy month for me with the fair and everything like that. So just
Yeah.
thank you
What,
for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
yeah, thank you so much. And first and foremost, I would like to congratulate you on your first successful festival.
Oh, thank
The
you.
Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree. I heard it was a massive success.
Oh yeah, it was. In at least in my humble opinion, uh,
Yeah.
the the vendors did really well. Speaker tickets sold out. The amount of support was amazing. We had for our first time festival, we are just trying it. We're from Northwest Ohio. So actually my sister was living in New Jersey for the
Oh,
last like 8 years, just moved back. But if anybody at home is not familiar with Northwest Ohio,
I'm not.
there's corn, and that's it. Ohio's a very unique state because we actually have four major biomes.
Uh-huh.
So it depends on where you're at in Ohio. It's a pretty large state. It takes about 4.5 hours to get across if you're going from point to point. And my part of the state is completely different than the other side of the state, where they have the foothills of Appalachia. They have, major rivers and that kind of stuff. I'm from the plains, the Great Plains, and the Great Swamp, the Corn Belt. So we have nothing. The nearest major city is, if you count Toledo, it's an hour away. If you don't
Oh my
count Toledo,
God.
it's almost an hour, 40 minutes away. So to have that festival here, and we had three countries with people that came out. So a
Uh-huh.
couple flew in from Australia
Oh
and
my
a couple
God.
flew in from Canada, which is insane to me. And everybody was absolutely so much fun. The support was amazing. So thank you for that.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that because your show's awesome, and I'm glad to hear you guys are just like thriving.
Uh, we, we owe everything to the people that listen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me and Jay have talked a lot, and Jay's not here tonight. He has bowling alley stuff. If anybody that doesn't know our show, Crips Corner, Jay runs the bowling alley. So he's the only maintenance guy.
Oh my gosh.
So
Does he clear out all those? He goes into like the alleys and clears out the like.
yeah.
Oh my God.
When we had our festival, we were at the after party right at his bowling alley. It's got a bar and everything. And there was a big group of Patreon listeners like, how does the back of a bowling alley work? And I hope I'm not getting him in trouble because he's just like, oh, come on, it's easier just to show you guys. And there
We
was
could
like,
cut this part out if we.
no, he doesn't. I'm sure he owns the place, so I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Uh, so they were having fun because it's very weird. It's nothing like you expect back
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm not a mechanically minded person, so I don't really know what I was expecting it to look like.
Mm-hmm.
When I walked back, I'm like, this is not. And it's all cast iron, and it's like from the 60s and 70s.
Uh-huh.
So they have they have the original bowling equipment in there, and they keep it functional and stuff like that.
I
So
love that.
it's very unique. It's cool to see it because you'll see him with wires over his shoulder, and he's a little guy, and he'll be crawling through what looks like a death machine.
I don't think I could do that. You'd
Oh
have to
no.
pull me out. Like I would have a panic attack. You'd have to pull me out.
Well, I'm 300 pounds, so I look at little space and I'm like, no,
No, I think I'll just
no.
bowl. I'll stay on this end.
Oh yeah, I'm fine over here. This is safer. Uh,
Yeah.
but yes, like I said, super excited to be here. I know we were talking about stuff already before we got in here. Ruddy ducks and salamanders and
Yes. And you were very knowledgeable. I think I had like a mini biology lesson.
it's bad. My
No,
wife's
I love it. It's awesome.
my wife's about done with it. I don't get to talk to adults anymore. I've
You,
had three babies, so it's just like it.
oh my gosh.
Podcast stuff is the only outlet to see adults, and the only reaction I can do is just spit uh, biology knowledge.
I love it. Well, we're gonna kind of get into that today.
Oh yeah,
Um, because we're going to talk about animals helping humans and cryptids helping humans. I've even got some stories I know of. You probably know them too.
I'm super
Um,
excited. I probably don't. There's so much with the cryptid stuff. There's so much out there.
I know.
In a good way, in a really good way. That it's really amazing. So the stuff you research and the stuff I research could be completely different. I'm super excited for it. It's
Yeah.
hard. We're getting to the point now. We've been doing it for actually what's today? In a week, it'll be our 3-year anniversary for the podcast. And we did a Bigfoot Society for a year before that. So we've been doing the cryptid stuff for about 4 years, me and Jay. We've done,
Congratulations.
thank you. It's been, one of our t-shirts says it. It's been a wild ride. Uh, it's hard because we've done 300 and like 50-ish public episodes and 175 Patreon episodes, I think.
A
So
lot.
I'm forgetting things. So we've had a couple things in the last couple months where like, oh, let's do an episode on that. And then we have to search our own podcast now to see if we've done an episode on it. And you'd be surprised. We just for the apparently we've never covered any of the lizard man stuff.
Oh,
And
wow.
but we thought we did. So we were sitting here like, well, we already did lizard man. And then we Googled or not Googled it. We, searched in the Spotify bar or whatever. Like, oh no, I guess we didn't. We never did a lizard man. So we just did a lizard man episode. It'll come out soon.
That's a good sign though, because it means you're just like in the creative flow. You're in touch, you guys are in touch with your inner children and you're just like going with it.
We say all the time, the second it's not fun, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
We we talk about what we want to talk about. If anybody checks out the podcast and you go through and look at episode topics, we're
Yeah.
mostly no, I mean 99% of the time they're cryptid based. The true definition of cryptid.
Hmm.
Just so everybody at home knows, we've been joking about it. We had one comment saying they never talk about cryptids, and we want to hear more about Bigfoot Dogman. There's three definitions of cryptid. The first one is an undiscovered animal by science. The second one is an unextinct animal. So the coelacanth is the prime example for that. It disappeared from the fossil record for about 70 million years and popped back. And then the last definition is an out of place animal. So that means if you see a lion in Ohio, you know what a lion looks like. You know they're not supposed to be here. So that becomes a cryptid. So
I
those are
did
the
not know the
actual,
third definition.
yeah. Ivan T.
Oh,
Sanderson, yeah, Ivan T. Sanderson's and Bernard Hoovelman were the founding fathers of cryptozoology, and they came together in the 19 now if I remember right. Dates are hard for me.
me
In the
too.
1940s, 1950s esque, and they formed cryptozoology as an actual scientific study. If anybody isn't familiar with those two guys, those are the founding fathers of cryptozoology. But no, they were both biologists. Bernard Hoovelman was definitely much more grounded in his
Hmm.
approach to cryptids up until his later life. And then Ivan T. Sanderson was much more, uh, I guess, fantastic would be a good word in his belief of some cryptozoological things.
Uh-huh.
They worked together well. They split up in the 60s, not due to anything horrible. Just they were still friends after. They just were like, they had very different paths in life, kind of
Yeah.
set for them. And then at the very end of Bernard Hoovelman's life, he came back around and started believing in the more fantastic stuff. And both really, really cool, man. We actually did an episode a couple months called "The Founding Fathers of Cryptozoology," and they were them and Lauren Coleman, a couple other people we kind of talked about. We have later in the month, I think, or later next month, the founding mothers of cryptozoology.
Nice.
There's some really powerful women that uh, have done really, really cool work. Linda Godfrey is one of the big ones that comes to mind, with the dog man and
Yeah.
I guess more spiritual or supernatural side of some cryptids.
Hmm.
Sorry, I could talk if you couldn't tell.
No, I love it. This is great. This is what I was
Uh,
hoping for.
so that's the definition of cryptid is not Dogman and Bigfoot. Just for everybody at home, that's the only I guess I was a biologist, as my opinion. That's the one
Yeah.
thing I've seen. I take bad reviews in stride all the time. I mean, we're to the size now. For every 4 or 5 star reviews, we always get a 1 star review and that complain about nothing.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's one that upsets me a little bit because the people don't understand what the definition of cryptid is. It is a biological term. So
Hmm.
Dogman to me technically would not be a cryptid because people attribute more spiritual, which it could very well be. I'm a Christian myself.
Uh-huh.
I don't fight anybody about any kind of faith-based stuff. But the spiritual side of life, the elementals, the more metaphysical things are real, in my opinion, but they're not cryptids as in definition.
I
Like we're
agree.
all kinds of stuff in the cryptid box now, which is fine. It's as long as people are
Yeah.
having fun with it.
And you guys say that werewolves and dogmen are different.
Technically, yes. Yeah.
One of them wears pants, I think you guys said, and you had me
Yes.
cracking up.
Yeah. The uh sorry, I was laughing. The oh gosh, the not Delaware. Why do I keep saying Delaware? The Defiance Dogman. Uh the Defiance Dogman is an Ohio dogman, which is a werewolf. It's not a dogman. It's the Defiance Dogman's a werewolf because he's
Okay.
wearing clothes and
Okay.
he hit a guy with a he hit a cop, or sorry, he hit a guy with a 2x4. Then he stole a lady's purse in front of a cop.
Well, I guess the cop wasn't going to do anything, right? Because that's kind of shocking.
They were like, so the railroad worker, it was two guys. They were checking for bums or hobos or whatever you want to call them. People hitching rides on trains, right? And this was in the 60s or 70s. So they were checking people. They were making sure nobody was hitching a ride on a train, that kind of stuff. So they're going around. They split up, and they're two big burly guys, is how they're kind of described. And the Defiance Dog Band's maybe 30 minutes that way outside of the store. Um, so they split up, and the guy kind of sees weird like feet hiding on the other side of this train car. So he's like, I'm just I guess gonna tell him to leave. As he comes around the corner, he sees this giant werewolf, and he said he had a ripped flannel on and what looked like the remnants of pants, and is swinging back a giant 2x4 like it's a baseball bat. Knocks the guy clean out.
Oh,
Wakes up and he goes and he tells his buddy and he tells the cops and he's like, it was a werewolf. It was this thing, but he hit me. He kept talking about how it had such big claws,
uh-huh.
but it hit me with a 2x4.
Well, that's very merciful. That's a
Yeah.
kind one.
The next day, it was seen by two cops as it was trying to steal the purse from a lady. And once it seen the cops, it took off. And then it was seen a couple other times before it disappeared. So that would be
You
a
think it
werewolf.
would, you think it would rob a bank or something, you know? Like, I feel like who's going to stop a werewolf?
And it could have been like lycanthropy. Oh, sorry, now I can't talk. But it could have been where it may have not known what it was doing. It may
Yeah,
not realized it was looking like that. When
right.
dogmen are, generally speaking, uh, much more aggressive. They're much more, depending on who you talk to with their encounters, demonic in nature, or at least very, very flat out mean.
Hmm.
With the murders associated with dogman, which there are plenty, are gruesome to an extreme degree. So,
Yeah.
and you've heard us talk about it. I won't go into it, but the Land Between the Lakes is our most probably gruesome episode we've ever done. We're a family friendly show for the
Hmm.
most part. If we're not, we always put the warning in, whatever. But with that one, it was just, and there's police records. Like you can find that stuff. It's not like this when we talk about the 1800s and the newspaper talked about one time maybe old man Jenkins seen this thing. No, there's police records talking about the murdering of this family
Hmm.
and how it had to be done by a beast, but it's nowhere Tennessee. There's no beast. There's no Kodiaks running around.
Right. Well, I've heard a story, I think it was on a reservation, that an upright walking wolf broke the front door down, walked in, ripped the father's leg off, like, and walked away with it like a turkey leg.
They're not good. They're not great to be around. Uh,
Oh my gosh.
that's my
Yeah.
second worst thing to run into. If I had to pick out of all the stuff we've ever done,
Hmm.
Rays are third, Dogmen are second, and then the Black Eyed Kids are first.
Yeah, I've never seen a black. Well, I did have an episode of sleep paralysis, and there was a tall gray in my room,
Oh
which,
gosh,
yeah,
we were at a haunted,
creepy.
way off topic. I'm bad about it, but we were
Okay, we'll
at
pull it back.
a haunted house, and I literally was talking to the house. I didn't know it was haunted. They kind of tricked me there. I don't do that stuff. I grew up in a haunted house,
Yeah,
so I don't do that. I believe in it. People, when we started the show, people were like, "Well, Justin didn't believe in any of that stuff." No, I believe in it at all. That's why I don't do it. If you want to go screw around with something you don't understand, go ahead. I'm not doing it.
right.
Uh, so we were at this house. He kind of tricked me into staying there for the weekend. Hi, TJ. Tricked me for staying there for the weekend. And he didn't tell us any of this till we get there. And I literally threatened the house. And I said, if you touch me, if you scare me, I'll kill us all. I'll burn this down. You won't have anywhere to live. And it was like an old style cabin. So it's two bedrooms. It's two floors, right? So there's like four beds upstairs. four
Uh-huh.
beds downstairs. And the guy that owns it just laughing the whole time I'm doing it. I'm like, TJ, I'm not joking. I'll burn this whole thing down.
I would have
And
been
I'm
like, you
like,
know what? I think I'm gonna sleep in my car, but like you
it
said,
was scarier outside. He talked about an inside out flesh monster that crawled across the roof one night.
oh my gosh.
Uh, and
Flesh monster? Like a
yes,
rake?
no, like a 4 foot tall humanoid that looked like its skin was turned inside out.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ew.
So I'm talking to this house,
You
like,
might have needed medical help.
and it's like a museum. TJ collected thousands of things.
Uh-huh. Oh
And
my gosh.
some occult stuff he didn't even realize was occultic till we got there. He's like, oh, I just found it at an estate sale and I thought it was cool. I'm like, and I love TJ to death. TJ is a good friend of ours. Uh, he still is a good friend of ours.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen a smoking Indian? It's a, it's like a promotional item from like the 1940s, 1950s.
Are they wood?
Yeah.
I think so, yes.
We had one downstairs. They're like 6 foot tall. So I can't see without my glasses. So I'm going down to pee. It's like
Can't
two,
see
three in
without
the
his
morning.
glasses.
I can't. I come around the corner and there's a guy just standing there with two hatchets ready to get me. I'm like, and I was swinging, and it's a friggin' wooden Native American, and I'm freaking out because it's coming to kill me.
Oh
And
no. Well, you didn't burn the house down though, so that's the good news.
no, because that one was my fault. But I warned them, and they didn't mess with me right till the very end, right till I was getting ready to leave.
That was
Awful.
probably smart.
I was literally opening the door, and I was the only one there. Everybody had already left. They left super early. It was at Mothman Festival.
Oh,
I was like
okay.
opening the door. A giant rock fell right in front of the door. And it's like an old wooden cabin, so you can feel it, right? And you can feel the
Yeah.
wobble of the rock and that kind of stuff. So I let go of the handle, and I can't see through. It's like not a screen door, but those really thin metal doors, like off a trailer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I sat there for me, and I didn't hear anything move, and I was waiting to hear if something stepped off the porch, and because he had Bigfoot activity and orbs and everything on the property. He showed us pictures of them.
Yeah.
After about 5 minutes, I opened the door. There's nothing there. There's no rock, nothing like that. I'll make a beeline for the car, and I'm out of there. I was thinking like I should
So
just
they
burn.
just threw the rock and to mess with you?
There was no rock.
Oh, I thought you said there was a rock.
It sounded and felt like a rock.
Oh, 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 okay.
So it's like it felt like it wasn't real. Like
Okay.
it was
Oh.
just whatever lives there is messing with me. It's
Oh,
probably
oh,
the fact.
oh. Okay. I thought you meant your friends were messing with you.
No,
So
I
there
was the
was
only one
something
there.
there for
He
sure.
lives on top of a mountain, like 35 minutes from cell surface. There
Oh
ain't
my
nobody
gosh.
there. He ain't got no neighbors. And he sits in the hot tub and he talks to Bigfoot. And everything he says is real. If you ever doubt this man, we're gonna have Mara show in a little bit.
Yeah.
He just like here's a photo of orbs that are coming up around him in the hot tub, and he has a
Mm-hmm.
picture of them. It's
So
it's
he's
just
well,
the craziest thing.
so he's friendly with them. They obviously respect him. He's got somewhat of a relationship going there.
It's because he's like 6'5". He's this big hippie, and they're just like they try to scare him for the longest time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's just too mellow, so they gave up.
I love it.
Or he's like, yeah, that flesh thing crawled across the roof one night when I was standing at the end of the driveway to make a phone call. And he says it like that. And you're like, what are you talking about? You seen an inside out flesh monster crawl across your roof?
I want to
And
hang out with this guy. He sounds fun.
I love him to death. He is actually one of the sweetest people in our, like, he's an amazing photographer.
Oh,
I'm going to Appalachian Giant on Instagram for anybody who wants to check out his photos. He's a
awesome.
photographer
Okay.
and he does really cool. We actually, I can't move the camera, but we have several of his photos in the studio.
Awesome.
But he's
Oh,
super
that's
cool.
great.
Are you ready for some animals?
Yes, yes, let's do some animals helping people because I really think that's a nice piece, I feel like, of how this world's supposed to be is a little
100%.
more harmonious and maybe even the cryptids are meant to be helping us too. I don't know, because I think there's good and evil everywhere.
And animals, here's the thing with animals, and I've been around. bear, mountain lion, elk. Uh, I've never been what do I say truly afraid by any of those
Hmm.
things. I've had respectful fear or primal fear for like the mountain lion we were really close to, just
Yeah.
because it never threatened us. It never once acted out. It never once we seen it, and we both went our separate ways, right? And everybody was fine. But when you first walk up on it, you're like, oh, that's a predator. Like that lizard part of your brain is screaming, hey, this ain't something good to be around.
Yeah.
I've been really close to black bears, not on purpose. I'm not one of those people that walk up on black bears or nothing like that, but just where they kind of walked up on me when we were trout fishing. And then they see you and you're like, hey, bear. And you kind of just, as long as you're ignore them, they pretty much go the other way. Grizzlies would be different. Polar
Oh
bears
my gosh.
are very, they're the carnivores,
Hmm.
but animals aren't evil or good, or good. There's domestics and more colonial species where they kind of hang out with other things are different. But this thing that we're actually in the middle of doing the monsters that made us. I don't know when this episode comes out on your platform, so here's maybe a sneak peek. This comes out in a couple weeks. It's a two-part series on our show
Awesome.
where we're doing these monsters that made humanity. These boogeymen, the short-faced bears, the saber-toothed cats, the giant ground sloths. These things that early humans looked at as just demons in the night. And in the end, you see that they all went extinct because of us. So who's really the monster when you really look at it? Who
Yeah.
wiped out who kind of deal? Um, so animals are just going to feed. They're going to do what they're going to do. And then some animals are way, way probably on human compassion levels. Intelligence is a hard judge or a hard thing to judge for species. Cephalopods excel in many, many cognitive tests. They actually, depending on who you talk to, and with science, there's many high credited individuals that have very disagreeing things with studies. So
Hmm.
you can find one that says cephalopods are about a 9-year old's level of intelligence.
What are those? Are those?
Squids, octopus,
Okay.
cuttlefish.
Okay.
Sorry,
No, that's
tentacles,
okay.
tentacles.
Cool. Okay.
True tentacles. Technically, nautilus are in that as well. Um, so these guys have cognitive tests. The only reason cephalopods probably haven't advanced, octopus
Mhm.
specifically and squid, uh, is due to their reproductive cycle. Almost every species of cephalopod alive today die as a part of the reproductive cycle. So these
Oh,
hyper
wow.
intelligent animals, it's not because they kill themselves, it's not because they get eaten. It's literally like salmon, where they end up dying at the end of the reproductive cycle. Females in captivity have been witnessed for giant Pacific octopus, probably one of the top four smallest animals we have on the planet, including ourselves. These giant Pacific octopus, humongous in the wild. There's records of them reaching about 25 to 30 feet across,
My God.
and we think those animals would be about 5 to 600 pounds. And they have so octopus have 9 brains, squid have 11 brains. They have a central donut brain, and each arm has its own unique brain, a separate brain.
Wow.
So their nerve system is very advanced. But we see them with compassion. Have you ever seen the oh gosh, my octopus teacher?
I believe I did years ago, and I think
It's
I
really
cried
good.
at the
Anybody
end.
at home that hasn't seen it, it's a family. Basically, they move in, and I believe it's a bimini octopus. I may be wrong on that. It's one of the smaller, really intelligent species of octopus. It moves in, and it spends its whole life cycle with this family, and it kind of falls in love in a way with the doctor's the daughter, and it enjoys playing with her. And it actually, do you remember the pictures it took?
I don't remember. No, it's been years.
It stole the waterproof camera from the daughter and was taking pictures of all the family without it knowing it. So they had tubes in the house, so it could move in any room in the house it wanted. It could hang out with if it wanted to be secluded, it could. If it wanted to interact, it could. So for like a week, they were missing this camera, and the octopus understood what the camera did, was taking pictures of the family, and just enjoying them. And it did
Yeah.
pass away, I believe, at the end of the documentary. It may have been after they stopped filming, but they only lived to be about 2 years old, anyways.
Oh, okay, I was gonna
So it
ask
was
you that.
they don't live. Most cephalopods don't live very long. Giant squid get that big in about 2.5 years.
See, this is why I'm afraid to swim in the ocean.
The ocean. Here's you don't get bit by a shark. Don't go in the ocean, right?
Right.
That's another thing I hate. I hate the news. Shark
Oh yeah.
infested. They live there. Go to a pool if you don't want animals touching you.
I know. I know.
They live in the beach. I had
Right.
that. I used to fish for sharks.
Oh
Uh,
really?
yeah, in Daytona, the shark
Okay.
bite capital of the world, New Smyrna Beach. It's because
Okay.
it's a popping ground, so a bunch of baby sharks are around. So people get
Yeah.
bit by sharks, and they're like 6 inches long.
Cute little sharks
Yeah,
for
because they
now.
bite your hands and fingers because they think they're little fish, and then they let
Uh-huh.
go when they realize, oh, that's a lot bigger. So cephalopods hyper intelligent. There is a famous story, and here's your first cryptid for the night of the Puget Sound giant octopus. So
Mm-hmm.
the Puget Sound is one of the best breeding ground for giant Pacific octopus in the world, and we actually think that there's a hidden, even larger species there. Like, excuse me, sorry. Like I said,
Okay.
giant squid or not giant squid, giant Pacific octopus. They can get about 30 feet across, and that's from tentacle to tentacle stretched out. When they're all balled
Okay.
up, they don't look that big, right? Because they're all wrapped up, and they kind of try to keep their hands under them when
Mm-hmm.
they're not using them, so little predators and stuff don't nip the ends off. So they don't look as big as they actually are until they want to. Uh, so there's been several amazing stories of these giants, these actual giants, and there used to be a horrible thing they did there. They don't do it anymore. They realized how bad it was. Was squid or sorry octopus wrestling. So they would go to the dens and grab breeding females and wrestle them out of the den and pull them up. And they several people died doing this
Yeah.
because octopus are not weak,
Yeah.
and it was whoever could get the biggest, and the biggest one they ever got out was like 71 pounds. And keep in mind, like I said, they get to be 400 or 500 pounds.
Yeah.
These guys would peek in a hole and be like, if you just seen a head, a mantle that big, you're like, oh, that's something many times bigger than me.
Yeah.
So they stopped that practice because they realized it's very harmful, and the population was suffering. But Puget Sound has so much biomass coming into it; it produces the biggest octopus in the world. So many sightings of these giant octopus have been seen there. And I'm talking 50, 60, 70, 80 feet across.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them have been extremely playful.
Oh.
So a fisherman was casting a line and he's seen what he described it as the kraken. He's like it was huge. And all it would do, it was grab my crab line and it would tug on it and I would tug back and it would tug on it and I would tug back. And he's like, we did that for 2 or 3 hours. And he's like, he didn't mess with any of my other lines. He was playing with me. We were throwing like big buckets of shrimp and stuff to him. And then
Uh-huh.
after he reeled it in, he just went back out. He was, so they described a monster that was just being really playful,
He was just playing.
just playing.
I
Uh,
love that.
what animal would you like me to talk about? You want me to do some of the human stories?
Sure, yeah, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you
I'll,
want to do.
I love talking, so if you couldn't tell.
Yeah. Well, first I wanted to ask you a question.
Oh, sorry.
So, do you know who Michael Rupert was?
The name sounds familiar. I can't.
So, yeah, he was, I don't want to get too much into him. It's more a quote. He said that I was just curious to like pick your brain about or see what you had to say. But he was like a whistleblower. He did the documentary Collapse. He was an investigative journalist. He committed suicide a few years ago. Um,
Suicide
but
or
um,
suicide?
he said the species that survives and thrives is the species that makes itself more indispensable to other species.
100%. I mean,
What do you think
talk
about
about
that?
the pure genetic standpoint. If you look at the animals that are thriving the best, it's the ones chickens outweigh humans. Oh, what is it? 150 pounds to every pound of human.
Mm-hmm.
And humans outweigh the next bio of vertebrate biomass by like tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at pure biomass, chickens are one of the highest biomasses. So as a species, even though maybe, and I have chickens, I've been in many good chicken farms and I've been in many bad chicken farms. I actually run the poultry department here in my county. So poultry are very important to me, and there's
Yeah.
ethical ways to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you look at a species, what a true genetic species goal is to produce the most, reproduce, survive. You look at the base levels of what any species in history wants to do. Chickens are doing pretty well, right?
Yeah.
They outnumber any vertebrate biomass 100 to 1. So
Yeah.
they're doing fine if you look at the genetic level. If you more looking at the consciousness level, and chickens are very intelligent. I've had 3 potty trained housebroken in my life that I've trained to be
Wow.
housebroken. They're not dumb. They're very different in intelligence.
Hmm.
And that's the thing I hate. Sorry, I'm already going off the quote.
No, you're fine.
Is that how we view animal intelligence?
No,
Because there's
I
not
agree.
one test. You can't look at us and try to put a human test on an animal. Avians, for example, across the board, are a very intelligent group of animals. There are
Hmm.
some more less intelligent ones than others, sure. Like, ravens, parrots, crows, those kind of guys, we kind of look at the top end. It does not mean a vulture isn't as intelligent. They're actually pretty intelligent. I worked in a lab that had one as an ambassador animal. It was an injured one, so that it had a broken wing, so it never could go back.
Hmm.
He would do all kinds of tricks. He would do all kinds of these cognitive tests that the same crows that they had in the lab were doing, and he was doing them fine. But it's an ugly animal, quote unquote. So people don't ever think about that. You look at it and it's a carrion eater. It's a scavenger. They have blood and visceral dripping off them half the time.
Yeah.
So this idea that species are more intelligent than others based off of simple cognitive tests doesn't work. A whale can't use tools.
Hmm.
They have flippers. In my opinion, we'll talk about in a minute. I think they're every bit as smart as we are.
Oh, yeah, maybe more
Maybe
intelligent.
more compassionate, 100%. And we'll talk about some of those things here in a minute. But when you look at animals, animals are dumber than others. Centipedes are amazing mothers. They put some of the most parental care in their offspring as any arthropod, or including mothers will stay all the way up to some species will stay all the way up to their offspring's 3rd or 4th molt,
Wow.
to guard them. So they'll
Yeah.
literally starve themselves to death to make sure their babies are good until they get a hard enough exoskeleton, they go deal with the world.
Wow.
That's an invertebrate we look at as a monster.
Yeah.
When you see, and I love centipedes to death. The Arkansas giant killer centipede is one of my favorite cryptids because it did nothing. It did nothing, and they called it the Arkansas giant killer centipede. Every time it bit somebody, they shot it or were beating it with the sticks before it bit somebody. Every time that nobody hit it, nobody messed with it, it would rear up and it would go the other way.
Yeah.
Every story, we talked across the country about that. Every story, like it was huge and it was scary. And these mandibles that were and they look scary, as humans, they look very frightening,
Hmm.
venomous, and they're highly deadly. Yeah, one's killed one person in the last 150 years, and unfortunately, it was an infant that had rolled on top of it. So
Mistake. It was an accident.
it was 100% an accident.
Yeah.
Um, so we look at ugly animals and that kind of stuff. Intelligent tests when it comes to this are very skewed, in my opinion. Cephalopods are kind of the ones that get the pass because they are cognitive into the level that humans can easily give them. They give them puzzles, right? And cephalopods will work these puzzles out. That's something you can watch. You can't hand a whale a Rubik's Cube.
Right.
Doesn't mean they couldn't figure it out. They don't have the ability to do it.
Right.
Um, what
Yeah.
else? Oh, velvet worms are one of the most ancient invertebrates we have around today. Have you ever seen a velvet worm?
No.
Imagine a centipede and a gummy bear had a baby.
Ooh, that's
So
cute.
no exoskeleton. They're big, squishy things.
Oh.
They actually have 2 tubes that shoot out sticky webs like Spider-Man on the side of their head.
Oh my gosh.
They are the most social structure invertebrate on the planet.
Oh my gosh.
They hunt in packs. They
Okay.
have social hierarchy, and they rear their children.
Okay.
This is some people say a 400 million year old invertebrate.
And they know what they're doing.
They are, and they're adorable too. If you ever look them up, they literally have squishy little feet and they're just squishy little
Oh.
bodies. They literally look like if you made a centipede a gummy bear.
Oh.
And that's because they have the same body plan, the same general body plan with the
Uh-huh.
multiple legs and the antenna and everything. They're just everything in them is squishy. But they people compare them to lions, where they
To
have
lions?
they have pridal structure
Oh
where they have
wow.
alpha male and subordinate females, and
Mm-hmm.
they have structured hunts and they take care of offspring. This is a 400 million year old invertebrate.
Mm-hmm.
That's highly intelligent, if you ask me. And
Yeah.
we're comparing them to some of the most active, the most successful big cats that are around today. We just talked about that. The
Yeah.
Panthera family, which is lions, tiger, pretty much any big cat you have alive today is a Panthera. The
Okay.
rest, the family groups of big cats went extinct. The Panthera were so successful, they survived the last mass extinction as a family group. Whether it's a tiger or a lion, a bob or not a bobcat, mountain lion, animals that look very, very different,
Mm-hmm.
they all survived the mass extinction, the last ice age mass extinction, when other groups like the saber cats all went extinct. And the saber cats had over 50 species.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So yeah, tons. And Smilodon's the famous one with the giant, the actual to the giant canines. Other saber
Right.
cats had big ones, but nothing like that. So whales are
Whales.
probably more human than human. If you say humanity, and I've talked about it on this on our show forever. I actually used to do a talk about whaling, which we can talk about, which is the single worst practice humans have probably done as a global species. Because every culture has participated in it. It's just the extinction, the execution of probably a sentient species that's on the same level as us. So let's talk about whale language. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about humpbacks mostly. They've had the most research done. They're one of three megafauna that have successfully bounced back since the Industrial Revolution.
Are they
And
the
it's
ones that they hunted for oil for lamps and
all
stuff?
whales. All whales were on the chopping block for oil, including the blue whale, which we'll talk about.
Okay.
Because people don't get how big a blue whale is. They just absolutely do not get. Humpbacks, a big humpback's about 80 foot long and some around 70,000 pounds. So if you look at big African elephants, right around 10,000 pounds. So,
Oh my
eight
God.
African elephants is a pretty good size humpback whale. And every elephant you've seen in a zoo, most time they have Asian elephants, which are much smaller than African elephants. And even in zoos that have African elephants, they do not have bulls most of the time because bulls are very aggressive. They're hard to contain. And they go to what's called must. And they basically become giant bulldogs where they'll destroy whatever around them.
Oh my
It's a
gosh. Yeah.
hormone. It's like teenagers, right? When they start having hormonal spikes, they
Yeah.
don't really know what they're doing. They're getting their brains getting flooded with chemicals. So humpback whales, the reason we pick them is because they've had the most research done with them. They've bounced back, and they have the probably out of any living whale, they have the tightest social structure. The second one is probably going to be sperm whales.
Okay.
They're the last. They're the biggest and one of the last members of their family group. So there's baleen whales, which are pretty much humpback whales and any whale like that. These big baleen, these big giant filter feeders. There are the toothed whales, which are sperm whales, are the last living mega member. There are pygmy sperm whales and there are dwarf sperm whales, which are different things. It confuses people all the time. It's because one was
Yeah.
discovered. It just is. They're like 16-foot long, right? So they're not tiny, but they're when you're looking at an 80-foot leviathan is your cousin, you're
Yeah.
small for that. And then there's porpoises. So porpoises are pretty much everybody else. Porpoises, dolphins are kind of depending on who you talk to, they're either split or they're the same group. So killer whales are actually a porpoise. They're in the dolphin family.
Okay.
Uh, they're the biggest dolphin by a long shot, and they're actually the baleen whale apex predator before us. Uh,
Okay.
and they're hyper good at it. So why we look at humpback whales is because they're the most vocal. They have this tightest social structure. So in the 1990s, we started researching what we thought there were some scientists that thought they may have language. That thought has been extinguished. It is now fact. They have a developed language. So in the 1990s, they were looking at this language, and in the 1990s, they ID'd about 3,000 characters. So what this means is a word, essentially, kind of a character is basically a word.
Okay.
Um, we're talking about these kind of language we're looking at, where they all use the same sound for rock. They all use the same sound for fish. They all, so that's a word, right, in their
Oh
language.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And we even found out they have family names, they have greetings, and they have individual names. They will talk about themselves in the third person like we do.
Oh my gosh.
So now we actually have ID'd over 11,000 words in the humpback whale language. And scientists are just saying at this point pretty much that they 100% believe there's many, many more words they have than the 11,000, but we're at a point to where we don't understand the nuances. So if you look at like Japanese, for example, Japanese is a very complex language to learn because there's a lot of nuances. So it's the same phrase, the same sound
Hmm.
with different inclinations. So it's
Okay.
a very, very different meaning in certain Japanese words, even though it's like none, like NA, it can mean many different things.
Okay. So
So
like
that's
some
what these
people say
scientists.
soda, some people say pop, that kind of
Yeah,
thing. Okay.
yeah. Or like when you say bat in an American language, what does bat mean?
It means a flying rat.
But it also means a wooden baseball bat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry.
It also no, that's the point. It
Yeah,
also
yeah.
means to bat something away, to push
Yep.
something away. So that same word has three different meanings.
Yeah.
Those are the inclinations. Those are these scientists are saying now is that we've identified about 11,000 quote unquote words.
Hmm.
The only reason we're probably not identifying anymore is because the inclinations are different.
Hmm.
So it's hard for us to understand what they're saying in the full picture. So
Okay.
like of and off, there's a bunch of those kind of filler words that pretty much only have one meaning. But like bat is a good example of
Yeah.
one word that has three very, at least to us, very distinct meanings, if not more. Um, cast has several, those kind of words. Think about that in the English
Yep.
language. If you were learning English, what does cast mean to you? It's the thing we put on a broken bone. It's also when
Hmm.
you cast a fishing reel,
Yep.
when you're doing a casting call. There's 100%, these all these different things.
Yeah.
So that is the sign of a very intelligent thing. But whales don't only talk through vocal language. They speak, their vocal language. They speak above and below our frequencies and in our frequencies. Humpback whales are very conscious. Sperm whales, especially, are very conscious around humans because of their language, their sounds they produce can kill you.
Yeah.
And they
You
don't
can
do it.
obliterate your organs, right?
Yeah, they'll liquefy your organs. Basically, you'll vibrate too fast.
Oh my
And
gosh.
sperm whales are very good about not doing it to people. They actually use it to hunt squid. They use a sonar weapon to knock
Uh-huh.
squid out for a minute so they can catch them.
Okay.
So that kills something that's 40 foot long.
Yeah.
And then
Oh
people
my
swim
God.
with them. People pet them. People, you shouldn't probably pet one, but people do it.
Yeah.
So in the 1999, I believe it was, and I may get dates wrong. Everybody,
That's
don't freak
okay.
out, please. Dyslexic. So rough dates. Rough dates. 1999. There is a male whale biologist, and his name's escaped me right now. He had been researching humpback whales for an extended period of time. So humpback whales' social structures are matriarch led. Matriarchs are adult females. Generally, the oldest female in a pod runs the pod. She's not breeding anymore. She's done producing calves. But what she does is she leads the herd, the pod, to the safe birthing grounds, to the feeding grounds, and she kind of plays grandma to everybody. She's teaching young mothers what to do and kind of watching everybody and being an extra set of eyes. So she's
Yeah.
the boss. Male humpback whales, male, pretty much any species of social whale, males are always bigger than any of the females will ever get, and they are solitary. A lot of times they will call them what's called a satellite bull, which they'll be generally around a pod of females. They're not hanging out with them or nothing, but they're there in case something happens, right? If the females do a distress call, they'll come flying in and they're going to try to help handle business.
Okay.
Uh, that's what the satellite bull is. So females, these matriarchs, they have a special sign. When they come together, when two pods meet, which happens often, the matriarchs will talk to each other. They will go vertical in the water column. Keep in mind, we're talking about 70-foot long, 60, 70,000 pound animals. Will go vertical in the water column and they will touch their flukes, their flippers together, like they're
Uh-huh.
shaking hands. And this is a
Oh.
symbol. It's like a handshake for us. It's a greeting. It's a peaceful thing. They do it
Hmm.
as a sign of whether you want to call it respect or love or whatever. They do it to each other before they kind of mingle, and then you'll see pods will not lose animals. They will mingle for hundreds, if not thousands, of miles, and then split off randomly. And every animal that was with this pod will go with this pod. They don't mess up. They know who they are.
Oh my
They
gosh.
they're just as distinct as people. So this 1999, this guy was diving with a lone bull sperm whale, or not sperm whale, a lone bull humpback whale. Now, bull whales can tend to be a little more standoffish. I wouldn't say aggressive. They don't like being messed with most of the time. They're just as they're mostly just dangerous from being big. They're not going to hurt you on purpose, kind of deal. But we're talking about an animal that's about 20 foot longer than a semi trailer, so they're not small. Uh,
Yeah.
so this guy is this whale biologist is diving with this adult bull humpback whale at about 80 feet of water, and they'll pull off in the shallows to kind of relax. And he jokingly goes vertical and he extends his hand like the matriarchs do their greeting. This 80-foot long Leviathan looks at this guy, starts going vertical, takes its 15-foot long fluke, and gently touches the guy. So not only did the whale recognize this, he recognized a human as another intelligent species
Mm-hmm.
attempting to do a greeting.
Yeah.
And he took the time to do it gently. His fluke was 3 to 4 times longer than the man.
Yeah.
Not fluke, this flipper.
Yeah.
Fluke's the back, sorry. So this adult bull humpback whale that does not do this, they, as far as we've witnessed, they don't do this grading because they don't need to. That's not their thing.
Yeah.
But recognized a human as another intelligent species trying to say hello or whatever, and
Yeah.
took the time to do it very gently.
Yeah.
So that's the first really, really, and anybody at home can look it up. It's a
That's
really, really,
awesome. I mean, the implications of the intelligence, emotional, I mean, on so many levels.
we're the dumber species when it comes to it.
Yeah, I would agree. We've got a lot to learn.
it
Oh, we
people,
are.
people are amazing, wonderful, beautiful creatures. Humans are a horrible monster machine. And
Yeah.
it's just hard. People, I did conservation biology, I did all kinds of stuff. And the biggest thing is the disconnect we have with nature as a race.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many people that we've taken out. I used to do it where we'd take people out and show them how horrid some of the waterways and stuff got. And they're like, we didn't know that it was this bad, and then they try to fix it. My next story I have for you.
Okay.
This this is a 2006, I believe. We're going to jump ahead.
Okay.
Again, another bull humpback whale. So leviathans. Yeah, when you really talk about, people don't get it. If you go
Like, how
outside,
big are they?
so
Can you come
everybody
to?
at home, next time you're on a highway, and it's hard to tell because you're in a car. If you're in a parking lot next to a semi, please just go stand next to a semi trailer. Semi trailers are 52 feet long. So a
I'm trying
bull
to.
humpback whale can be 80 feet long. So that's almost double. Not, it's less than double, but it's 80, it's 30 feet longer than that semi
Yeah.
trailer.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna have to do this next time I'm driving now.
people don't get how big these animals are. They're like, oh, they're bigger, they're the size of a house. No, they're not. They're most of the time they're way, way bigger than your house is.
Yep.
You don't realize how big they are. And these aren't the biggest whales. We'll talk about blue whales because they are a whole different thing of big. They make other whales look tiny. They really do. They're amazing creatures.
Gosh.
So, yeah. So go if you want to see what 80-foot long is. Semi trailer is 52 feet. They're in the U.S. They're pretty much all 52 feet. They say it right on the side. So imagine your house is about, most houses are about 30, 40 feet long. So imagine your house and that semi trailer lined up is a bull humpback whale. So these guys, a guy and a gal are diving in 2006. Again, like 67 feet of water. They were free diving. It's super, super rare to see a humpback whale that shallow. It was in Florida. And the reason they go, it's actually a spot, they essentially, it's a rest area for the jet stream in the Atlantic Ocean, where these adult humpback whales will pull off to relax, where they don't have to fight to swim. They don't have to fight to breathe. Like, it's just a rest area. So every once in a while, you see groups of whales there. Like I said, bulls are pretty much solitary. It's not that they're aggressive. They just don't, they live their whole life in solitary once they get pushed away from their mom. So it's
Mhm.
just not a social animal compared to the females of the species.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, like I said again, that they're not evil or monsters or anything like that. They just don't like to be around things. So these guy and a gal are diving around this bull humpback whale, and it's just a monster, and they're swimming with it, and they're pretty excited with it and everything like that. All of a suddenly, this monster, this humpback whale, starts pushing this guy and girl on its nose up to the boat, and it's doing these weird things with its body, and they're scared to death. This is a monster. This is a humongous animal. You
Hmm.
are nothing to this thing. And it is doing these weird positions with its body, and it's bumping them with its nose and stuff like that. And it pushes them up to their boat. And then once they get out of it won't let it back in until they leave. They have no idea what happened. Like 2 months later, they look at the camera, and a 14-foot long tiger shark was stalking the couple. And those body
Oh my
positions,
God.
the humpback whale was keeping his body in between the couple and the shark at all times. And every time the shark would move, it would move its body. Now I want to put this in perspective. That shark has never been a threat to that humpback whale since the minute he was born. They are
Yeah.
so big right out the womb that they come out 1,000 pounds. He's not he's not worried about a 14-foot long tiger shark. Even right up pretty much the only thing that can sharks is a really big great white shark can kill a baby humpback, and that's only for a couple months. They get so big so quick.
Yeah.
So this shark was never once a threat, let alone then. We're talking about something smaller than its flipper.
Yeah.
It recognized the people were in danger, and it made sure it was trying to bodyguard him as long as it could. And then when it couldn't, when the shark wouldn't give up, he forced them back onto the boat, their safe spot, and wouldn't let them back in. So that is a sign of a certain level of intelligence that people just fail to accredit to animals.
Yeah. You
Um,
didn't have to do that.
no, and that's the thing is they're not social. Bull humpbacks are not social. We're
Yeah.
not talking about dolphins. We're not talking about female humpbacks, where they deal with child rearing, they deal with, small animals.
Yeah.
The bull humpback has no parental, needs. It doesn't do anything with babies. It's not
Yeah.
worried about little animals ever. And it took so much intelligence that people just don't get to recognize us as an intelligent species that it wanted to protect, and it did, and to the best of its abilities, which saved it. Um,
I love that story. That's
it's
awesome.
2006, I believe, and you can find the video of, I believe it's still on YouTube, of the you just see the just the and you barely see the shark because it's hard to focus on because there's a friggin' whale in the camera. You just see this.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, if you don't mind, I'll talk about whaling for a second. Whaling's horrible. I actually used to do a professional talk on whaling. We go on stages in high schools and stuff and talk about whaling.
Yeah, please do.
Whaling is the single worst practice. Today, it's still going on, extremely active. The Japanese government's the number one killer of whales, and it's not the Japanese people. I want to make that very clear. It's citizens don't. They're not doing nothing. It's the governments. Governments are evil organizations.
Yes.
So I've had people comment on that I don't like certain things, and it's no, I don't like the Japanese government. Each
Clarify. Yes, you got it.
Yes, they have like 150 whaling vessels, and each one kills about 100 whales a year. So, for example, bowhead whales, they live to be about 300 years old, and they maybe only produce 3 calves in their life.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
a calf a century. We
Yeah.
don't live that long on average that they
Yeah.
take to produce, and so these are very long-lived, slow animals. Um, but humpbacks and all this. So the whaling fleet does the most horrendous practice. So it's horrible the thing humans do, and an amazing things whales do. So out of any species, this has never been observed on such a level as whales do this. So the Japanese whaling fleet, they sit right on the edge of Australian waters. Australia and Japan have almost gone to war over whales many times because Australia protects its whales uh,
Yeah.
more than they protect oil or anything.
Yeah.
And the Japanese government wants to pretty much butcher every whale they can. And the butchering process, which it's horrible, but I really want to talk about it because people don't understand what happens to these animals, these
Yes,
highly
please.
intelligent animals.
Oh,
Um, so they sit right on the border of international waters. Their favorite target is a mom and a calf because the cat, once they shoot the mom, the calf won't leave. Calf's going to stay right, so they get 2 whales, right? All
yeah.
they got to shoot one. A kill shot. So if you look at and I don't agree with any whaling. The only one I really can't argue with is the subsistence whaling of a couple of the villages that still exist in the Pacific and the Atlantic. They harvest 1 or 2 whales a year, and that's pretty much what they eat for meat. You know, but
Hmm.
how they and I don't like it, but it's not my lifestyle. I'm not going to ever tell anybody they can't eat. A human's a human. Uh,
Yeah.
but how they kill a whale, for example, is they aim for the tail, the fluke, right above the fluke, which is that big flipper on the end of the tail.
Yeah.
There's a central artery in there. If you cut it, they bleed out really fast because it's huge. It's the most,
Yeah.
if you're going to kill a whale, it's the most humane way to do it. And they know that, because they're doing this in 20-foot long wooden boats for an 80-foot long animal. So they know how to kill them fast. The
Yeah.
Japanese whaling fleet does the exact opposite. They shoot them what we would call, if you were looking at them, the shoulder blade area. There's no vitals there. It's just blubber. So what they do is they pin the female there, and with her calf is swimming nearby, and she is obviously injured. So she calls in distress, right? She's freaking out, calling in distress. And
Yeah.
she lures other whales in.
Oh no.
And this has been witnessed to bring in 4 to 5 different species of whale. So, but for
Yeah.
whales, for their side of it, this has never been witnessed for interspecies communication on this level. We're talking other different species of baleen whale hear distress calls and they come in to help. They come in to see what, they can
Yeah.
help. Humpback whales are probably the most famous for it. They'll come and help seals. They'll come and help dolphins. They'll come and
Oh,
help anybody. So the whaling fleet knows this, so they can lure in other whales, and they literally let this thing flop and be bleeding and dying for hours sometimes. The butchering process is the most. The front end of the boat opens up. The whale slides up. It's still alive. The whale slides up and immediately starts having its flippers and fins cut off, and they start butchering the skin off while it's still alive. This is
oh,
happening today. Today, right now, out in the Japanese Sea and in the Pacific, it's happening
it's
to
monstrous.
animals that are much more intelligent, at least compassionate than we are.
Yeah.
And there are people fighting it, and there are really good people putting in the good fight. Uh, and it's, if you look at it, the research vessels say research vessel in English, not in Japanese, in English, because it's mostly English speaking countries that have problems with it, because the Japanese citizens most of the time don't know what's happening. They don't know this is a government hit on whales.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know. They live in Japan.
Yeah.
It's going to Australia and they're fishing in international waters. They're not fishing off the coast of Japan. They're going way out to get whales. Keep in mind, most countries only own, quote unquote, control about 30 miles off their coast. So the
Okay.
Japanese fishing fleet is famous for fishing off of California. You can sometimes fish in California and see the Japanese fishing fleet depleting fish
Oh
stocks.
my gosh. I didn't
And
know
all the way
that.
over here. Yeah, it's not great. The Japanese government is really, really rough on the aquatics. So whole
Somebody needs to
populations of
educate
whales
them.
have changed. And it's the government, right? It's not the people, it's the government. The
Right.
government
Yeah.
does not care. They say that they're doing it for scientific research, and they take a core sample of bone marrow from the spine of each whale they kill, and then they sell the rest into sushimi. 150 whales roughly a vessel in our year, and they have about 100 boats a year.
Oh my
So just
God.
thousands of whales are dying from this horrendous practice. And
Yeah.
they're sentient creatures. And that's one ocean. The whaling in the Atlantic is completely different. I believe it's just Greenland left is the only country that still whales. And I think they
Whales.
kill 4 whales a year, which I don't agree with, but that's very different than thousands, right?
I
That's,
feel, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's necessary.
and like the Greenland one is mostly villages, I believe. It's still, I think, 2 active villages, and they each kill 2 whales a year. But
Okay.
that's what they eat, right? We're talking about populations of 500 people, not
Right.
high-end sushi restaurants that it's
Yeah.
costing $400 or $500 a plate to eat this whale.
So they're claiming the Japanese government is
Research,
claiming that they're using this for research, but as you said,
help
they're
the
only
whale.
taking.
They got to get that core sample out of the spinal cord of the whale, right there in the deep. They got to get in there.
That's nonsense.
But whales are very resilient.
Yeah.
Pretty much any species that's alive today, except a handful, have shown signs of starting the bounce back process from the whaling industry in the 1800s. Now, this is just whaling today. Whaling in the 1800s, people don't understand. The world was powered by whales. We burnt so many whales that there is ice cores that looks like a volcanic eruption happened. So in the ice cores in Antarctica, they can see when we were burning the whales.
Uh-huh.
They're like, it's identical to a volcanic eruption. There was so much whale ash
Oh my
in the
gosh.
air. We burnt so many of these animals that it looks like a volcanic eruption in the ice. But
God.
I don't like ever like talk, there's always positive ends. Many of these species are showing signs of bouncing back.
Yeah.
Luckily, a lot of these species aren't just locked to the Pacific Ocean, which is our biggest sea, our biggest ocean. Many of them also co-occur in the Atlantic, which has been a good sign, and the Antarctic, which is currently mostly being protected by Australia, and the
Mm-hmm.
Arctic, which is being protected by Canada and Russia. So
Mm-hmm.
there are good areas for these guys, but we've actually seen whole migration routes change and animals starve to death because they're too scared to cross this area where the Japanese can hunt. And because they're not dumb, right? They're not dumb. They know
Yeah.
it's out there. They know these monsters are out there.
Yeah.
Things we called leviathans are now scared of us
Yep.
because we burnt so many of them that in the ice layer it looks like. And I'm laughing because it's just ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
just the craziest thing you've ever heard. We burnt enough whales to where it looks like a volcanic eruption happened. And we burnt seals too. We burnt a lot of seals.
Yeah.
They
Which
thought
is
elephant seals were extinct for a long time because we burnt so many elephant seals that we thought they were gone. Uh, Sperm whales are about the only ones that ever fought back as in a meaningful way. Whales are very peaceful. Sperm whales are the largest toothed whale. Now they're probably just as intelligent. They take very, very good care of their offspring. Bulls will still do the same behavior with hanging around, except
uh-huh.
these bulls are just battering rams full of the biggest teeth you've ever seen. So they have the third, if I'm not mistaken, the third largest teeth of any animal of all time is a bull sperm whale. And they're only beaten by, I believe, T Rex and Leviathan for thickest pointy teeth. Leviathan is a cousin of the sperm whales that went extinct. So, another
Okay.
big whale. Uh, they're meat eaters, right? They're not baleen feeders like the humpbacks. They fight big things that they eat, whether it's sharks and giant squids, colossal squids, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and even sometimes smaller animals like dolphins. But there's actually one right now that has a group of sperm whales that have taken in a crippled dolphin that they take care of. An Atlantic bottlenose was crippled with a spinal injury, and it just lives with this pod of baby sperm whales. And the parents drag up giant chunks of squid and they feed it and everything like that.
Gosh.
Keep in mind, this is an animal that's 85 feet long, and this bottlenose dolphin's like us sized,
Yeah.
and this monster is feeding it, taking care of it. I mean, that's a pretty good bodyguard. The only thing that really eats them is orcas, which orcas are another hyper intelligent species. They are the wolves of the sea. Uh, they can hold grudges. I'm sure you've heard about the orcas sinking ships in the Mediterranean.
Yeah,
The
I've
the
heard that they're starting to go after
sailboats.
ships.
Yeah, and it's sailboats, specifically sailboats. And they pretty sure their matriarch run it as well. So how orcas work is that their matriarch ran, all of the boys stay in the family, and they go get girls from a different pod. So
Okay.
many
And bring
girls
them
every
in.
different pods. Yeah. So that's how they
Okay.
keep interbreeding. There's actually like 15 different subspecies of orca, and they call them types, and they do not interbreed. So
Okay. Oh.
and you look up the charts of the subspecies of orca, it's insane. Where there'll be three or four living in the same area, and they mostly eat different animals. Like
It's
there's fish,
smarter than some of the royal families.
100%. 100%. It's very hard for an orca to get inbred. Not very hard for any of the royal families to. The gene pool of royal families looks like a wreath, a
Yeah.
family tree.
Yeah.
And so with these guys, what they think happened, and they think they pinpointed it, was this elderly matriarch, this grandmother orca, was struck by one of these rich sailboats and critically injured.
Oh.
So
Oh.
now all these orcas are just murdering these sailboats, and they're leaving the people alone. I want to make that very clear. Once they sink and the people are in the water, they leave. They don't. They don't connect the people to the crime. They
Okay,
connect
so it's the
the
boat.
boat. They want to just murder the boat.
Okay.
They don't. They may not quite put the pieces together of what's driving the boat. They're just like, this thing's bad.
Yeah.
There's never been a confirmed orca kill on a human in the wild ever.
I think I did hear that, but in
Captivity, yeah, they are
SeaWorld's asking for it.
anybody. Here's
That
another
needs to stop.
100%. Zoos are a complex issue, a very, very complex issue. I'm actually very close friends with many of the head zookeepers of several local zoos. I've worked with zoos. Zoos are the best and sometimes the worst thing, depending on the zoo. It's highly, they were talking, this is highly individualized practices
Mm-hmm.
and the species, right? So a good thing zoos do is public education,
Uh-huh.
public connection, Humans will not protect a species they can't put a face to. Now, if you know about Lola, the fire salamander at the local zoo, you may care about fire salamanders in Russia. How would you ever know about it before? You know Lola now from your local zoo. So even though that species probably shouldn't be in captivity in that aspect because they're really endangered, there's that. The other thing is the Noah's Ark aspect, right? There are several species that are completely extinct in the wild that are still being bred in captivity.
Hmm.
Pygmy hippos are an example. That baby hippo was just born in China. It's a pygmy hippo. They only get like 400 pounds, which is still big.
Okay.
But when a normal hippo gets 4,000 pounds, it's considerably
Right.
smaller. They're extinct in the wild. They don't exist anymore.
Oh my goodness.
So without zoos, we would no longer have that species. Uh, for example, tigers. There's more tigers in captivity than there is in the wild, but we're also sending tigers back to the wild. So it's called, we're saving gene pools. So mammals kind of have a rough magic number of 3,000 individuals.
Uh-huh.
Once we fall below, mammals specifically fall below 3,000 individuals, the population genetics are no longer viable. And that's rough. Some animals are higher, some animals are lower,
Hmm.
uh, but that's kind of the rough idea for mammals. So there may only be 2,500 tigers in the wild left. So without
Yeah.
the 3,000 we have in captivity, the gene pool would be dead. No matter what we did, no matter how hard tiger conservation got, there would never be anything to save those tigers.
Oh
But
my
now we
goodness.
have the genes in captivity, so we can release certain individuals in certain areas and keep the gene pool healthy.
Hmm.
So that's a good thing with zoos. Now, the bad, and I wouldn't count SeaWorld as a zoo. I'd count SeaWorld as an entertainment center because it is. And it's not. We went to SeaWorld all the time growing up, right? We didn't know. Nobody knew. Nobody
Yeah.
knows. You don't know. So I never fault anybody that goes to SeaWorld without knowing. Once you look into it. So the SeaWorld in Florida has the orca and the bottlenose dolphin. Have you seen the pictures from overhead?
No.
They're holding tanks so that they live there in that show tank.
Yeah.
It's not where they live. They live behind it in these holding tanks. The orca's 30 feet long and the holding tank's 40 feet wide.
God.
And he lives there with an Atlantic bottlenose dolphin. The apex predator of the dolphin is the orca. So these dolphins die incredibly young because they are stressed. Because
Yeah, I would
it's
say
like you
so.
living with a tiger. It's just like I don't care if
Who's
the
in
tiger's
charge
trained.
of this?
You
Like,
only sit in a room with a tiger for so long, being like, "All right, when's it going to kill me?"
seriously,
Years.
is the janitor of SeaWorld in charge of where these animals
No,
are?
he'd do better. He'd
Just,
probably release the things. The SeaWorld
oh
also
my
recently got in
God.
trouble for these manatees in these horrible conditions,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
live. They're in Florida. Uh, so there are certain species that probably should never be in captivity because we cannot provide what they need. We
Yeah.
just cannot. Orcas travel 5, 6, 7,000 miles a year for most pods.
Yeah.
So the continent we're on is about that long, back and
Yeah.
forth. So you're talking about animals that will travel this continent every year. Moving around, having fun, big family groups, hyper social. Same with the bottlenose. They get into schools of 400 or 500 individuals. They like being around other bottlenose dolphins. So
Hmm.
the only contact it has is people and a giant predator. It's
Yeah.
not great. That's a highly stressful situation. So no wonder they kill trainers. And SeaWorld is famous for covering up all these trainers' death. Like the one
Yeah.
that just killed the lady a couple years ago. They
Yeah.
like news reported it was its first time it ever had hurt a trainer. That work had actually killed 4 other trainers.
Yeah, they covered it up. Was it Tilikum?
Yes.
I believe.
And
Yeah.
it's not an orca's fault. You're talking
Right.
about a 35-foot long apex predator of the ocean. Literally, orcas do not get hunted by anything besides people. They are the apex animal in the ocean. And it's kept in an aquarium that you could swim across and dive to the bottom of.
Yeah.
We're talking an animal that may go 8, 9, 10 months without seeing land. And then they're kept
Yep.
in a tiny thing. So they're going to snap. I mean,
Of
it'd be like
course.
in a white room for 8 months. And then once a day, you got to come out and you got to jump through a hoop and dance for people. And then you're just sitting there like, I'm going to kill the guard today. I'm going to kill the guard today. That's what I'm going to do. I don't care about
Seriously.
it. I'm going to kill somebody.
I would snap. I would at least hit a few people, if not worse.
Orcas in the wild eat things bigger than people all the time. They normally
Yeah.
recognize people as intelligent. They don't Like I said, it's never once been proven of an orca attack on a human in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
Orcas have caused death by playing before.
Mm-hmm.
Same with pilot whales, their close cousin and false killer whales, uh, where they are playing with a human and accidentally kill them,
Yeah.
but never a predation event, never like a murder, quote unquote.
And that was in captivity?
No, that was in the wild.
Oh, okay.
It was like an orca jumping and kayakers getting too close, that kind of deal.
Okay.
So, keep in mind they are the size of, Florida F-350.
Right.
So
So
if they're
maybe we
jumping out
need
of the
to be a
water,
little bit less, a little bit more
I'm
coherent about what we're doing.
I'm sure you've seen those humpback whales hitting boats and kayaks recently.
Oh yeah.
It's because nobody follows the rules.
It's our
They are.
fault.
It's yeah. I mean, the whale's fine. A
Yeah.
whale, you know.
I was like,
Uh,
ooh, what was that?
so that one that surfer they got hit. You see that in Australia?
No, I've seen a
It was
kayak
in a
one where they're
wave.
like jumping, but
It was so whales like to ride the waves. They enjoy this behavior of riding waves like
mhm.
humans do. So there's like baby humpback whale. It's like 25 feet long, is riding this wave and literally runs into the surfer, and you can see it on the GoPro.
Oh my
And
God.
the guy was fine. The
Yeah.
whale, they were both riding the wave at the same time and crashed into each other. Uh, it's lucky it wasn't adult. Whale shark's another one that probably shouldn't be in captivity. Recently, a zoo just deployed a robotic whale shark, an accurate model, and it seems to be doing very well. Some people were complaining because they don't understand, that sharks, extremely large sharks, do not do well in captivity. The
Yeah.
Georgia Aquarium, I believe, is the only one in the world that's ever successfully kept them without injury.
Okay.
And they work very, as far as I know, several people that when I was in fisheries, several people that worked very closely with them, they do a lot of work behind the scenes to keep those animals healthy. So what happens with these pelagic fish? So pelagic means open water. They don't deal with walls, right? So that's the
Okay.
hardest thing. You bring an animal from the open ocean into captivity. Walls. Imagine if you've never seen a wall in your life. You don't understand. So you're huge. You bump into them and you actually break parts of your body off because you bump into them. So it
Yeah.
happens generally with whale sharks and other extremely large fish is they swim in circles and they actually rub one fin completely off because
Oh
they
my
don't know what
God.
they're doing. They're running in circles. So the Georgia Aquarium has certain sound technologies they use to keep them turning so they don't ever touch the walls.
Yeah.
And they're healthy. They're actually keeping weight. Whale sharks have a lot of trouble keeping weight in captivity
Yeah.
because they eat a lot of little animals. They're huge.
Hmm.
They're 45, 50. I think the biggest whale shark on record is 60 foot long. And they're
Oh
peaceful.
my
You can
God.
go in the wild. Here's another story for you. I want to do it in Malaysia before I die. Is you can do these cruises with whale sharks or these deep sea events. They love to be pet. I don't think you should put many animals in the wild. I really am against like messing with manatees, messing with whales. Whale sharks are probably the exemption of the big animal rule. So they get a
Uh-huh.
ton of skin parasites, right? There's these big pelagic animals.
Uh-huh.
So human hands and human fingernails are really, really good at scratching.
Uh-huh.
So it feels really good to them.
Oh.
So they will seek out people like a 60-foot puppy dog,
Uh-huh.
and they will let you scratch them. And they want to be pet all over and
Oh.
all that stuff. And you can hand feed them. They don't have teeth. Their esophagus is the size of a softball. So
Oh my God.
they're literally animals. If you look inside some of the videos of whale sharks swimming around eating, there are giant fish that live inside their mouth their whole life.
They're their own ecosystem.
Yeah, they are their own
Oh
ecosystems.
my gosh.
So there's fish that are 3 foot long that are live inside their mouth because they don't eat that. They are filter feeders.
Oh
They're
my
eating
gosh.
krill and and photophores and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that as long as you go to the right areas and stuff, you pet. Because they were one that they're still kind of depending on what population they're still on the edge of extinction. Uh,
Hmm.
they don't do so. They're a carpet shark, which is super weird. So carpet
What?
sharks live on the bottom, and they literally look like giant like mats, like wapagons and stuff like that. You ever seen
Uh-huh.
a shark that looks like the bottom? That's a carpet shark. Uh,
Okay.
and you look at their body plan; these big, flat, giant fish. They kind of look like it once you look at them, but they're giant filter feeders. They're so peaceful. They literally do not have a care in the world. They don't jump. Basking sharks jump. The other
Uh-huh.
big shark that just harmless, quote unquote, but they torpedo and they kill people that way on accident.
Whoops. Oh
Uh,
God.
they just do it when nobody knows why they do it. Some people think they enjoy it. And so they don't realize that there's things above them.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant they
Not,
enjoy killing people.
they don't enjoy killing people. They enjoy jumping. They enjoy that behavior.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they don't realize that there's people above them.
Okay.
It's
So how are
generally
you going to do this? Are you going to go to the bottom of the ocean to get some petting in, some scratches in with
no.
them, or
You actually can go to a tour. You can pay $50 in Malaysia, and they will take
okay.
you out, put you in swim trunks. You don't, and you just sit there and pet whale sharks.
That sounds like an awesome time. You better make plans to do that.
Yeah, that's whenever the kids get a little bigger.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, other animals that are problems to doing this avoid whale sharks because they can be very dangerous if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
Their tails, if they hit you with their tail, it can knock you out underwater.
Oh, that's not
It's
good.
not a purposeful thing. It's just them, a fact of them being longer than a semi truck trailer. Again,
Mm-hmm.
just existing. We're talking about colossal animals that them to push that huge body, even though the tail. That's another thing with big animals. The tail looks like it's moving slow.
Yeah.
Uh, I know we're already over time. I'm bad.
No, it's okay.
I want to just add blue whales before
Okay.
anything because
Yes, we have to talk about blue whales.
people do not understand with blue whales. Let's talk about it because they're the single. We are very blessed as a species. Think about how long animals, how long things have been here. The ocean has produced some behemoths, even some ichthyosaurs. They were humongous, and mosasaurs, krakens. Like a literal kraken was produced in the end of the Jurassic. A cuttlefish that was probably 110 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing has ever come close to the magnitude of the Antarctic blue whale. There's 4 or 5 subspecies of blue whale. They're all subspecies, so that means they're all one group, but regionally they have several differences, like humans, right?
Yeah.
Regionally we have differences. Like we're all humans, but people native to Africa look different than people native to South America look different than people native to Australia. We develop differences based on where we look or where we
Yeah.
live. But everybody's the same species. So blue whales are the same way. The Antarctic blue whale is the biggest of the big. So they're a Titan family, and they're the biggest of that. So on average, they can be around 80 to 100 feet long. So we're talking about the smallest end is the biggest of the other species of whale.
Oh my
So they're
gosh.
kind of their bottom group is this. It's the max of most
Mm-hmm.
other animals. The single largest adult we've ever recorded accurately is 120 feet long. Yeah,
I'm trying to visualize, like compare it to like think of
a
things I
football
can.
a football field plus 20 feet
Oh
big.
my God.
Or that may not be accurate. I'm bad with math.
I am too.
Football, just 100 feet. They're huge.
Okay.
Two semi trucks plus
Holy
20
crap.
feet. So
Wow.
two semi trucks and an F-350.
Okay. Yeah.
So 120 feet long and 500,000 pounds. 500,000 pounds.
Oh,
So that's the next animals really stop besides blue whales at like 80 tons. 80 tons, some of our biggest humpback whales, sperm whales, and some of our biggest sauropods, which are the long necked dinosaurs, they top in the 70 and 80 ton range. So 160,000 pounds is the
mm,
biggest any of them, the freaks of nature of those species have ever got. The largest whale, hump blue whale, we've ever been able to accurately measure. And this was a dead individual from whaling, so that's why it was accurately measured, was 120 feet long and estimated to be about 500,000 pounds.
oh my God.
So just a titan. It's just
Yeah.
bigger than anything. And people have a lot of trouble. There's the blue whale that's on exhibit in New York, I believe. The replica is a
Uh-huh.
75-foot individual. It's not even a titan for their species
Right.
because it's as big as the room. It's just as
Would,
big as they could fit up there.
yeah.
They
Would you say
couldn't
this
fit a.
is one of the biggest creatures
This is the
that
biggest thing
exist?
ever. The biggest animal ever. Now, there's some plants and fungus that have gotten way bigger, but they don't have physical constraints like moving. Um, so these things are so big. They are generally so peaceful. They're so solitary, and they're struggling right now as a whole family. But they are what's called a running whale. They're a fin whale. So they're these long. They're like long tubes. So a bull, this bull blue whale, was about 8 times bigger than some of our biggest humpback whales. Like I said, the top 5 biggest animal ever. The biggest animal ever is about 8 times bigger. There's a big gap in size, and these guys are fast. They're long distance runners. So, two things, and I won't end on a sad note. I'll add something positive at the end. Don't worry.
Okay.
They have been so decimated by whaling that they can talk to each other from about 1,000 miles away. So that's me to Florida, where I'm sitting right now in Ohio. They can have conversations with each other about that far away. They can
Wow.
no longer find mates. That's how far, like, there's so few of them that they are having that much trouble finding females and males of their same species, that they are crossbreeding with other species. And that's a problem with the Japanese whaling fleet because they're losing their blue color. So they're getting fin whales, like minke whales, for example, that are 100 feet long, which are actually a blue minke hybrid, a close cousin, because minke whales top out at 80 feet. So these Japanese whaling fleets are killing minke whales that are 100 feet long because they don't. The Japanese whaling fleet is not allowed to kill blue whales out of everything. That's the only whale they're not allowed to kill. So, and they lose their blue color. They can say, well, it's not a blue whale, but it's a hybrid, so it has the genetics. So they're that big. They can't find mates. Another sad note is that there's a group, one of the types of orca is whale specialists. They hunt whales. That's what they eat. They eat whales. Everything needs a predator. It's just how nature works. They've never, ever, ever been documented hunting blue whales until relatively recently. And I'm talking about adult blue whales. Everything will hunt anything's baby. You know, that's a baby elephant is not an elephant when we're talking about hunting. You know, a 100-pound elephant is not a 10,000-pound elephant.
Mm-hmm.
So, an adult blue whale. These orca groups have never been witnessed, even attempting it, because they're so much bigger. I mean, a big orca is like 30, 40,000 pounds, 30 feet long. We're talking about something that's 500,000 pounds and 120 feet long. You know, just monsters.
Yeah.
Recently, there was an orca pod that was trying to hunt this. So, how they hunt fin whales, the other smaller cousins of blue whales, is they get them running, right? They actually set up a relay race. So, they set up orcas down on the coast, and one orca starts chasing the fin whale. Once again, fin whales are distance runners, right? So, they're made to go long distances at steady speeds. So what they do is one whale bites it on the fluke of the tail and gets it running. And then they take turns running this whale until it's exhausted and they drown it. They basically sit on it till it can't breathe. That's just how they're very efficient. So there was I think this was 2018. Recently, they were observed trying this on an adult bull blue whale. And so these orcas are basically starving to death. They are so desperate for prey that they are trying it on the biggest animal ever. I mean, just ever to exist. So they get it all set up and they try it. And this big bull orca bites the humpback, the blue whale right on the fluke. And doesn't even flinch. He flings this orca and kills it like 60 feet into the air.
Oh my God.
Because he's so much bigger.
Yeah.
He just didn't matter. You know, we're talking about a building. So here in Ohio, for all of your Midwest listeners, grain elevators, the big towers where we store corn and soybeans, they're 90 feet tall. So these guys can be another 30 feet on top of that. So your house sitting on top of these giant grain silos. So for an orca to be so desperate, a pod of orcas, to try to hunt one of these guys is, you know, it's bad signs on everybody. Yeah. They're not finding enough whales. But funny enough is humpback whales are probably the only reason orcas haven't killed every other species of whale, because they're funny. I love humpback whales. They're goofy. They go out of their way to stop every orca hunt. They will go out of their way. If they're hunting seals or they're hunting sharks, they will go out of their way just to mess up the hunt because they hate orcas so much. And so have you ever seen a humpback whale fin? You ever seen the white crust on the flippers? Do you know what that is?
Mollusks?
Yeah, they're barnacles. Good job.
Okay.
And their face is like it too. So those are parasites, right? But humpback whales only have them in specific spots. They actually have areas on their skin that promote the growth of them. Now, why would they want these animals, these parasites, eating them? Like, they're creating drag too. They're actually slowing them down. So why would they promote their growth?
They what?
Why would they promote the growth of these parasites? They actually have their flippers and their head. They have spots where they promote the growth of them. Why do you think they would do that? What would be the purpose? I believe in you.
Oh God. To I don't know, to deter attacks or something?
Pretty much. They use them as weapons
Okay.
because they're hard. Barnacles
Okay.
are extremely hard
It's
and
like
rough. They
armor.
actually have sharp. They use them as brass knuckles.
Nice. I like
So
their
they actually take
style.
their flippers and they whack orcas with them, and they've been witness killing orcas with this essentially a reef they're growing on their flute
Oh
or
my
their flip.
gosh.
So they actually have created, and several other species of whale have done the same thing, like bowhead whales. They have three big spots and they
Uh-huh.
ram with it. So uh they actually have brass knuckles in the headgear they wear to fight other animals.
Oh my God.
Or how peaceful they are. Uh, and for here's a positive note, I guess. I know I could talk forever. I'm sorry.
No, you're great. Thank you so much.
Uh, a
I've
positive
enjoyed this.
note. Have you ever heard of the SSS Exis? Ursus, I can never say it right. Exis. It's the most famous whaling disaster ever.
No.
So this whaling ship was going out and trying to they were killing tons and tons of whales. So they were, and people die. So it may not be good. I'm just saying, whalers. I don't care. I
It's
just
okay.
don't.
It's a good story, I'm sure.
So the USS Axis was in the Pacific, and they are hunting whales. And how they do it is at that time, we're talking about the 19 like tens. They would row up to these whales while they were sleeping, and they would start stabbing them to death.
So this is a whaling ship.
Yeah. Oh, that's what
Okay, I
they
don't
did.
feel
That was
bad.
what. Yeah, I don't care. Like, and they also ate a bunch of tortoises. They found they were horrible people. Uh, Tortoises don't do nothing to nobody. I'm all for
Yeah.
eating animals. Believe me, I eat plenty of animals. But there's ethical ways to do everything. And turtles and tortoises do nothing to nobody. They
Yeah.
don't. I don't care who you are. Anyways, my prejudices. So they seen this massive bull sperm whale.
Uh-huh.
And he was sleeping. They're very few animals in the water sleep because it's very, very dangerous
Mm-hmm.
activity to do because you're vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Sperm whales are kind of one of the only big like they do it because they're pretty friggin' nasty to go try to fight. They're hard, like they don't pick fights.
Mm-hmm.
But if you mess with them, I mean, they're battering rams with the third biggest teeth of any animal ever. So they're not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah.
So they see this massive bull, and they've had a really rough time whaling. They really haven't seen many whales. They've only killed a couple like juvenile baby whales. So they need a big one for this ship. So you see this guy, and they roll up on him, and he's the biggest whale they've ever seen. And they stab him once, and he just blows up. He destroys two of the ships instantly. So they're rowing back, trying to get to the main ship. And 99% of the time, whales never fight back in whaling events. 99% of the time, they dive, they go hide, they run away. That's what they do. We're talking the biggest animals ever. They don't like to fight, even if their life's in danger. They're very peaceful animals. What had happened though, and this is what triggered this, uh, it cracked one of the ships, and the guy was hammering a tarp on this crack of this little boat as he was rowing back. That hammering sound on wood is the bull sperm. It sounds just like the bull sperm whale fight call.
Oh.
This guy got woken up from his nap. The biggest sperm whale they'd ever seen got woken up from his nap. It was hurting. He got stabbed, and then he immediately hears what he thinks is a bull sperm whale's fighting call. So he's like, "Okay, there's a rival. There's somebody here." And he turns and he sees the ship.
Uh-huh.
The story goes is he blows past these little whaling boats, and he starts ramming the bow of the Essex, and he's just destroying. They'd never seen it. They thought they called this whale a demon because they'd never seen a whale turn back and actually fight back for its life.
Yeah.
Hits, and there's a hole big enough to drive one of these little boats through in the ship, and the ship starts going down. So these guys are just the people on the boats are the ones that survived. Most of them died. A couple of them stayed on islands, and there was just tortoises swimming everywhere because like a week before they stopped at one of these islands and took every tortoise. This boat was responsible for the extinction event of a whole species of tortoise.
Oh my God.
So some of the surveyors that survived are like, there was just tortoises everywhere swimming, and some of them I survived on a nearby island. But there you go. The time the whale won.
I love that. And he
The
saved a
time the
bunch of
whale was
tortoises.
and saved a bunch of tortoises. You imagine if you've killed thousands of whales and not one has fought back, and now this one is just livid. Uh, I guess I could give you an animal fact before we wrap up.
Yeah.
You know why they're called sperm whales? And it's spelled sperm as in sperm.
Hmm.
It's spelled that same way. You have
Um,
any guess?
oh God, I don't know.
It's a crazy story.
Do
I,
tell. Do
I was
tell.
gonna say if you could guess it, I would give you a lot of money because it's convoluted. So they
I
have
don't
what's in
know.
their head. So you ever seen a sperm whale skull?
Yes.
They're like crocodiles. They look like crocodile skulls
Mm-hmm.
because that big giant part of their head is actually a jelly filled sac they use for their sound resonation.
Okay.
That jelly is called spermaceti.
Okay.
So these whalers first were killing sperm whales. They cut open their heads and they seen spermaceti. It looks like sperm as far as they were concerned. It's a
Oh
white,
wow.
cloudy liquid, but it's actually a fat based liquid used for sound resonation. So they were like, okay, that's sperm in their heads. They store thousands and thousands of gallons of sperm in their heads. And then they named their ships spermaceti ships.
Okay, wow.
So it's this big long story. And then they named the whales sperm whales after the ships. The sperming ships is what they're
After
called.
this mistake they made.
But it's like three times over. So they called them something else, but they're like, these are the whales that have sperm in their head. So they named the boat sperming ships. And then they named the whales after the boat sperm whales.
I did not know this story,
It's the
but it's
goofiest thing.
hysterical.
And do you I got one more funny one for you because we're talking about animals.
Yes, please.
Do you allow, and I don't swear very, very often.
It's okay.
Is it okay to swear one time?
Yes.
Have you ever heard the worst animal name ever?
No.
It's an actual animal's name. This, yeah, anybody can Google it. I don't swear. I don't like swearing. This is called the bony-eared assfish.
Bodhi fish. The poor
It has,
thing, if it only knew.
it's disgusting looking, and I love fish. Don't get me wrong. It has the smallest brain to body ratio of any vertebrate.
Oh,
Any vertebrate. So the reason it's called the bony-eared assfish
that was my question.
is there's two ichthyologists, which are people that study fish. There's two ichthyologists that hated each other. They
Uh-huh.
hated each other. So the scientific name of the bony-eared assfish, the one guy discovered it and named it after the guy he hated, and called it the bony-eared assfish. So the scientific name is like, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's his name. It's the other guy's
Yeah.
name,
Oh my
and the
God.
common name is the bony-eared assfish. And it's the
Oh.
funniest thing because these two guys just hated each other. So all he could think to do is he found this fish. They actually had the smallest brain to the body mass ratio of anything ever. And he's like, you know what? I hate George.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
name him after
This is Georgia Smith, the bony-eared ass
that
fish.
fish. I would have loved to have been in the room when the other guy found out. Like, wait,
It was
what?
at a national fish like ichthyology conference. He never knew until they were presenting this year's findings in
Uh-huh.
like England. And he's like, I named it after my colleague, George. He gave the scientific name and he gave the common name, the bony-eared ass fish, in a presentation, like presenting it to
Oh my
other
God. That's
scientists.
a great story.
Ichthyologists, I worked with a lot of ichthyologists. They're fun. They're fun, weird people.
They sound like it. They sound like it. Um, well, I've kept you long enough. So thank you so, so much for coming on. I appreciate you so much.
I
It's
appreciate
been
you having
fun.
me. I've had a ball. You can't tell I can talk about animals forever.
I love it.
We
It's
didn't even get to your
great.
cryptid stories,
Awesome stories and awesome information.
but we didn't get to yours.
Oh, oh, well, mine, you probably already know mine. Like mine are just more like cryptid. Like, let me see.
Well, why don't you come on our show and we'll share them?
Okay,
We'll schedule you on for our show and
okay.
we'll talk about them.
All right, sounds good. And I've got some weird experiences too I can share with you guys.
Perfect. I want to hear the shadow, or not, sorry, the sleep paralysis one with the grays.
Oh yeah. And I've seen
Right.
orbs and I've heard stuff in the woods and in my room. Yeah. I got
Yeah,
some.
when it's in your house, it's very different.
You what?
When it's in your house, it's very different.
Yes, it is.
You're out in the woods. You're like, yeah, that's odd. I don't like that.
Hmm.
It's in your house. It's in your security. It's in your area.
Right.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, totally. So, just to wrap up, if you can just tell people, I'm sure they already know because you have an awesome show, but if you could just tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Crypticorn podcast. We're on every podcast platform. If you're iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, everything. We're on 500 little podcast platforms I don't even know about. YouTube, all that. Uh, Facebook, Scripts According podcast, same with Instagram. Facebook every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do an hour live show. We just kind of talk, it's called Cryptids and Coffee. Sometimes we don't even talk about cryptids. It's just kind of like a weekly fun show where we just kind of have a ball with whatever anybody wants to talk about in the audience. That's that. Our website, scriptsacorn.com. Our email, scriptsacornpodcast@gmail.com. So if you want to get a hold of us, those are the best ways. Also, I don't know when this comes out, but very soon, my first book comes out.
Ooh,
So yeah,
congratulations.
it's all up. Thank you. Living UFOs, the ocean above our heads. It's all about the living UFO stuff we've done. I'm very excited about it. I'm not a writer whatsoever,
I've got
so this
news
is
for
a
you.
long
Apparently you are.
process. But yeah, I'm an author. I wouldn't say a writer because they had the poor person I paid to edit it, and I didn't even pay her because she wouldn't take money for the first one. Uh, and hi,
Well,
Alex. I don't know if you're listening to this. Hello. Um, but I think there was like 2 or 3 thousand edits. A
that's
lot. It's a
okay.
lot. I can't read or write, so there you go. But if you're interested, anybody's interested in that book, it's got like a ton of oceanic biology, comparing it to the upper atmosphere, comparing eyewitness encounters with things we see, convergent evolution, and all this stuff. It's a really good match between biology and speculative biology with these UFO encounters that may be living animals in our upper atmosphere. That comes out the first. We're debuting at Crypticon this year, which is November like 23rd in Lexington, Kentucky. And then after that, it'll be available on the website, and then after that, it'll be available on Amazon.
Good to know.
I think
Thank
that's
you so
everything.
much. And thank you for that book because I feel like it is kind of time for that because there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the sky that sounds like what you're describing, what you
The
wrote your book
last,
about. So,
the last book about that kind of subject, I've never ever claimed to be the first one to ever talk about the subject. We probably, though, have done the best job of explaining the subject in a scientific manner because the last book that came out of it was 1971.
wow.
It's literally titled "Living UFOs, Atmospheric Amoebas." So
Okay.
that's similar title because it's similar stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I
thank
mean, you
you.
guys are talking about the same thing. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Justin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Can't wait to have you on our show.
Yeah, I can't wait too. I look forward to it. All right. Good night, everybody.